The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. And this could be for the aspiring advertising professional looking to break in and find their first job, the mid-level professional looking to break through and find that next promotion, or the marketing professionals out there looking to find their next agency partner. So in this episode, we speak with Chris Copacino. Chris is the executive director of business development at Copacino Fujikado. I love the name. I love the agency. You're going to learn all about this agency in this episode. Basically, they're blending artistry and strategy to deliver results for top tier clients. It's a name that embodies the fusion of Italian and Japanese heritage. Copacino Fujikado has spent 26 years redefining creative advertising in the Seattle area and beyond. So Chris shares insights into his role. He oversees new client acquisition, agency marketing, and operations while nurturing the creative environment that is needed for agencies today, and how he puts strategy first within the agency. So client roster, who have they worked with? REI, Visit Seattle, St. Michelle Wine Estates, and the Seattle Mariners. So the agency has achieved remarkable client loyalty, boasting an average client tenure of 8 years, which is double the industry average. So we'll talk about the origins of the agency, how the unique Seattle culture influences their approach to creativity and business, and his personal journey as a second-generation ad professional and transitioning into business development leadership. He'll talk about his advice for breaking into advertising, thriving in agency roles, and succeeding in business development. A really good episode for those account folks out there that want to go down that track, maybe a new business, but also how they have to be creative as well. So whether you're exploring agency life, navigating a career in new business, or seeking strategies for long-term success, you're going to love Chris. You're going to love his agency and this episode. You're going to want to connect with him. To do that, connect with him on LinkedIn and listen to the end of the episode to learn more. And then leave 5 stars if you can on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It goes a long way. It helps us grow and get amazing guests like Chris. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Finding the right strategist or account talent shouldn't feel like an uphill battle. That's where no single individual comes in. No single individual specializes in delivering custom teams of strategists and account managers who integrate seamlessly into your workflow. With no single individual's team-based model, agencies gain the depth and collaboration they need while offering top talent an opportunity to work on meaningful projects. Whether you need pitch support, leave coverage, or additional resources, they're here to make great work happen. Ready to elevate your team? Visit nosingleindividual.com and discover why agencies of all sizes trust them time and time again. All right. Chris Copacino, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to talk with you today. Where are you calling in from?
We're located just north of Seattle, Washington, the next municipality north of Seattle and Shoreline, but greater Seattle area.
Beautiful, beautiful. I've never been. Definitely want to hear a little bit more about that, maybe on another conversation. But what I'm really interested about is your role as executive director of business development at Copacino Fujikado, which has got to be one of the coolest agency names in the business.
Yeah, Italian and a Japanese woman started the agency, so we lead the league in vowels for sure. But yeah, my role at Copacino Fujikado is I'm the executive director of business development. That is in charge of new client acquisition, frankly, and that is proactive outreach and prospecting and introducing ourselves to brands we want to work with or we think we should be working with. Our reputation precedes us in this market and regionally and even nationally, so we get a fair amount of inbound inquiries, and my job is to sort through those and understand if they are good opportunities or not good opportunities, and then court those opportunities accordingly. And then I also oversee our agency marketing and publicity and promotion work to make sure we're raising the profile of the agency, and then lastly get involved in agency operations. So never a dull moment.
Oh man, love this position. If I were to stay in agency life, for just for context for the listeners, I was in new business and PR and comms. If I were to stay in this business, I would probably be on your track. But then I'm doing the podcast now, so I love this track. I came from this track. I think it's a really,
Yeah.
we don't talk about this track a lot on this show. So, how do you break into this type of role? We definitely want to understand the agency and how you said that your brand as an agency generates inbound inquiries to work with you all, which is sweet spot, bread and butter. We love that, right? Right. But some agencies have to do a lot of outbound and pitching and figuring out how do they, rebrand and get out in the world, which I'm sure you're thinking about some of these things too. But it's nice that you already have this established brand. So from there, Chris, what is the brand of this agency? Give us some background, some context, how you guys came to be. How Italian, and you said Japanese, right?
Yep.
The fusion culture perhaps is infused and disseminates throughout the agency. Give me some context too.
Yeah, it's a good scopy question, but I love it. So we've been at this for 26 years. We were founded on January 1st, 1998. We've always been a creative-driven shop. I mean, and that's a trite thing to say, but we've always been, creatively led. The partnership has always been, and the founders, I should say, with Jim Copacino and Betty Fujikado, has always really been around the blend of left brain and right brain, and that's why I love this business. I mean, this idea of where logic meets magic, where creativity meets commerce, all these different things. And so we have always struck that balance. And Betty Fujikado was a CPA by trade, but before starting the agency, she did a lot of merger and acquisition work for telecom. She was a COO, a CFO, a CEO. So she had this whip smart strategic mind blended with Jim Copacino's creativity and lifelong writer and creative director. And so we've always had this blend of that and really kind of personified this industry of art and commerce coming together. And I think that's always been our secret sauce, really understanding, being really responsible about the businesses that we're supporting and how we can drive them and move them, but with really smart strategy, lead with strategy. We're a strategy first agency. We've never given that up. And then compelling creative ideas that attack that strategy and that move that strategy. And that's not differentiating in this business. It's not. I think sometimes the way you do it is differentiating, and we've always been a highly responsible agency. We are not an agency to push our own arterial motives. We have strong convictions, and we're not pushovers, but we're decently egoless too, which is a nice balance, and clients really, really appreciate that. So that's been a 26 year track record of providing value to our clients, providing measurable results for our clients. And this is a what have you done for me lately business. It just is. But we're happy that and really proud of the fact that we have built a lot of longstanding relationships that we continue to build on. Our average client tenure is about 8 years, which is nice. I think about double the industry average. And so we are, to know us is to love us, and then we court and steward that business well.
8-year relationship. I haven't even had that in my life, so that's really impressive. Love that. So based in Seattle. Can you talk about why they chose Seattle and how that culture and being an agency there? I can't think of too many agencies top of mind that are in Seattle or in the Seattle area. So give me some rundown there. What's the vibe? How does that make you guys different? Do you lean into that, or are you establishing the culture in Seattle? Give me some context there.
Great question. Yeah, Seattle has always been kind of a sneaky hotbed for agencies, and different agencies have gotten hot over the years. DDB Seattle had a good run. Publicist Seattle obviously did a lot of great work for T-Mobile. Wong Duty was an is and was an independent in their heyday that really flashed. Creature had some moments, and so we've always our co-founders are from Seattle, and so they made Seattle its home. But I think asking that question is a great one, because I think it really, I think we've always kind of interpreted and personified the vibe of Seattle, which is a relaxed informality underpinned by rigor. And if you think about the tech scene and those kind of things, like that is that vibe, right? That is, hey, we are super approachable. We're super, not casual, but we're accessible folks. But we're underpinned by rigor. We can do some really, really, really good work. And I think that, I think sitting up here in the Northwest, sometimes some people view it as South Alaska, but all seriousness, aside, like, we are in a corporate hotbed up here, and Seattle has been for a long time a hotbed of innovation and ingenuity, and I'd like to think that we, are part of that fabric here of a creative class that is really serious about what we do, but we don't take ourselves too seriously in the process.
Love it. Love it. I've never been. So what would you say is like one food recommendation, restaurant? If I'm going, what's the best,
Yeah.
your favorite? Come on.
Well, gosh, that's like asking, what's your favorite child.
All
But
right. How about for like an out of towner? Like they're coming in, they want the authentic
yeah. So
experience.
a quintessential. I was just there a couple weeks ago. A quintessential Seattle restaurant is Matt's in the Market. It sits literally right across from the Pike Place Market sign, which you've probably seen, and has become very iconic. And it is just a quintessential Northwest restaurant. It's Northwest is a type of cuisine that's hard to kind of pin down, but it's seafood
Mhm.
forward. It is contemporary, and that has been a staple for a long time. So Matt's in the Market would be my recommendation.
All right, we're going. Breaking Enter is going. So
Let's
well,
do it.
that's me and my co-founder. We're showing up. I love it. All right. So then tell me about some of the clients. I think, I've read here, did a little research, but, my research isn't always accurate. So please correct me if I'm incorrect. But I believe that you have worked on brands like REI and the Seattle Mariners. Is this correct?
Yeah.
And maybe let's elaborate on some of those. What are some other like clients you've worked on? Some of those hallmark ones that have put you guys on the map, either recently or historically. Give me some client
Yeah.
overview here.
Yeah, our inaugural client was the Seattle Mariners, and we enjoyed a 22-year relationship with them. And early on in our agency's history, we worked with REI. We actually worked with REI when they had a big inflection point in their business and they were struggling with sales. Actually, saw 2 years of declining sales, and we came in. Betty Fujikado actually at one point was the acting director of advertising. She was embedded at REI, spent 2 days a week there,
Damn.
and we did a huge audience segmentation and profiling project for them, huge brand overhaul, strategy overhaul. Obviously, that led to new brand campaigns, and the zeitgeist at that point. Outdoor recreation was starting to be very popular, and there was the hardcore people. Hey, I'm out there traipsing around in the wilderness, and then there was the aspirational. Hey, I just need a really good waterproof coat to stand on the side of my kids' soccer games, and I want it to be Gore-Tex. All that said, we helped bring REI to $1 billion in sales. Enjoyed a relationship there.
Nice.
From there, we've done work. We've done a lot of work with Saint Michel Wine Estates. So if it's and depending on different metrics, anywhere from the third to fifth or sixth biggest domestic winery in the United States, and did a lot of work in brand and integrated campaigns and social for their brands: Chateau Saint Michel, 14 Hands, Intrinsic, Columbia Crest, Erath. we've worked a long time with Visit Seattle, which is a convention and visitors bureau here in Seattle, all about heads and beds. It's a very
Oh yeah.
easy metric. Our job is to get people here, both for leisure travel
Heads and beds.
convention. Yeah,
I
convention and
love that.
business travel. We've worked for, let me get my math right here, almost 20-year relationship now with Symetra, which is life insurance and investments, located in Bellevue, Washington, which is a sister city right across the lake from Washington, and they are a national financial services company, annuities and life insurance. We have a long-standing partnership with Sue Bird, Seattle
Nice.
sports athlete, and now meteoric celebrity transcending sport in her retirement, and that's been a fun relationship. And then we also do a lot of work for GISA Credit Union, which is the second biggest credit union in Washington. So it's a mix of national and regional clients. We do a really good job with regional clients who have a national footprint, because obviously we have scale and our ability to work across the country. But we have worked across a lot of different industries too, and I love that variability. I really do love the ability to work across almost all industries. We specialize in travel and tourism, alc bev, financial services, and retail. But we have worked almost across every sector you can think of, which I love, and that's why I got into this business.
Love it. So what's the question is, what's the secret sauce that makes
Yeah,
you guys stand out? Is it being independent? Is it not over agencying things, which I know you want to talk about? Is it the history, like combination of all these things? Let me get an understanding. Like, how do you guys stand out in this? There's 14,000 plus agencies. What's your secret sauce here?
yeah. I mean, I think, it's. I wish I could point to one thing. I think it's an amalgamation of some of the things you mentioned, but I'll touch on them. And I think that there is this. First of all, you have to do great work, like and great creative work. You have to bring great ideas to the table, business transforming creative ideas. Which in a way for agencies are table stakes, but can you ground those in really smart strategy? Can they be enduring? Can they truly deliver? So that's one thing, and we've always done that. I do think the idea of integration is really really important. We for a long time, consultants told us we should be a creative boutique specializing in travel or healthcare or something like that. And I was like, that seems really specialized to me. So I do think the idea of integration, although almost kind of a buzzword and trite in our business, is really, really, really important. And that is that idea of creative and media working together for a 1+1=3 idea, like that force multiplier. And, and you bring that to an independent agency, and you can do some really interesting work and be really dynamic and flexible and kind of break down some of those traditional agency silos of hey, we're filling units, creative fills units, or here's a creative idea, media, you go figure it out. That's not how we work. It's always been a left and right hand talking to each other and figuring out how we create top spin on our campaigns, because one of the areas that we really excel in is challenger brands, and really finding those brands that have to punch above the weight in their marketplace. And you only do that if creative and media work really really hard together. So you have a fight. You literally have a fighting chance against the Goliaths of the category you're taking on. And then lastly, I'd say it really is about having experienced people. We've always been a senior-led agency, and I almost don't even love that term senior-led, but it means something, because we've always had. We are not an agency where you get the pitch team and they get handed off to a junior team. We've never been that group. We've always had experienced senior people touching the business almost on a daily basis, but we've been able to scale even as we've done that. But that means that we can solve problems quickly, and clients really trust us. I think trust is at the foundation of a lot of our success, and that is that responsibility I talked about. That is that relaxed informality and accessibility underpinned by rigor. That is making the right decisions. That is continuing to drive results. And people want to do business with those who they like and trust, and we've been successful at cultivating that trust over time.
Love that. Makes a lot of sense. Bonus question right here, just so we can just catch attention real quick. Are you hiring at all right now for the junior to mid-level roles do you plan on in the near future? If so, or even if not, how can people like be on the radar if they're interested in working with you all?
Yeah, so we are currently hiring. We have an open senior account management role. We actually just hired director of analytics that we're really excited about. But we are constantly pipelining talent. I mean, it's not this is a talent business, right? So we are
Mhm.
constantly talking with people and trying to understand what's the best talent we can bring in to do work, the best work on our clients. So yeah, we're constantly seeking that. You can check us out on our LinkedIn page,
Yeah.
on our careers page is a great way. You can reach out to me directly. I'd love to have a
Yeah.
conversation. But we are currently, we're always pipelining talent, and frankly, we've cultivated a really good group of talent over the years. Seattle is an attractive place to live from a lifestyle standpoint. We do have folks who are not in Seattle working for us, and so we do take kind of a hybrid distributed um, model. But we have amassed a group that has big agency experience, has worked with some of the largest advertising capitals across the country,
Mhm.
who have chosen Seattle, and then we benefit from their talent and experience and big brand experience on across our client portfolio.
Nice. Is there a human that they should specifically talk to?
If they want to talk to me, that's great. Mike Hayward is our chief creative officer. He's an accessible guy.
Nice.
Vince Sullivan is our executive creative director. He's always down for a conversation. Scott Foreman is our CEO, and
Mhm.
he's always down for a conversation. So hit us up individually or hit us up on our careers page, and you will get a reply. That's one thing that we're not a ghosting agency. Almost every inquiry that comes in, we funnel appropriately and get a reply back. We just think that's a sign of respect.
Nice, nice. Love it. Okay, so now I want to get into this phase of how you broke in this business. I see your last name here, so give us some rundown on like why you chose this business, how you broke into it. Were there any like, uh, was there, I guess, any conflicts internally? Did you want to go somewhere else? Did you want to try stray away from this business? Were you warned not to get into this business? Give me the rundown
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, Copacino is like Smith over in Italy, so there's no relation at all. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm a, I'm an ad baby, and I've talked to a lot of second generation ad people out there who are ad babies, and they grew up around the business, and they totally the business got ingrained in them at a very young age, and so I remember being 7, 8, and uh, Jim, my dad, would be in a pitch, and he'd take me to the office on maybe on a weekend, and he'd be working. I'd be back in the art room hanging out, like when they had art rooms with pens and everything. Um, and I really just appreciated the kind of work that agencies did. I love the blending of creativity and business. I love the interesting people in and around agencies. I love the
They are
collaboration.
interesting. They are interesting. Those
They are.
creative. Your dad was your dad a creative or what was his
Yeah,
role?
right. Writer by trade, writer and creative director, but really good creative strategist, like,
Mhm,
ability to work upstream and really kind of capture
mhm.
the DNA of a problem, and then being able to dramatize that creatively. Um, but I was always actually, frankly, more business minded, maybe a little bit more kind of logical. So even though I love the business and love the creativity of the business, I always was interested in more of the business of the business, and frankly, today still am. I talk internally a lot that like I appreciate creativity. I love the work, but I don't need to have my fingerprints on the work at all anymore. Like I
Same,
don't mind
same.
it. I love the business of the business and talking about the business of the business and how the business evolves and how independent agencies continue to drive value for their clients and where this business is going to go. And that's what really kind of gets me fired up. So, but now looking in the rear view, grew up around this business, interested in this business, went to school, studied communication with a marketing focus. I knew just kind of from my talent, skills, interests, experience, exposure, I find my way into marketing communications somewhere. But more and more, and especially as I went through college, like I'd come home in the summers and work at the agency as basically, an intern and a gopher, right? Copies, coffee, whatever they needed. So I really started to learn the business from the inside out. And when I graduated college, I, poked around, almost moved to Boston, almost moved to San Diego, almost took a couple jobs in sports marketing. Um, but I was really interested in agency life. And so then I actually started temping at another agency in town who needed some help. And I was there for like 3 months. And they said, hey,
Were
would
they
you?
looking at your last name like, should we hire this guy? Is this guy
Yeah,
a
well,
name? Like, is he a
they
spy?
did. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't hire you. If in the same
They
time, no
did.
way.
They ultimately tried to hire me, and I had that moment where it was like, okay, I'm in Seattle, I'm liking Seattle, I think I'm gonna stay in Seattle for at least the time being. If I'm working at an agency in Seattle, I think I know which one I'm going to work on, because that would make for some awkward Thanksgiving conversations, right? So I
Can you
was like,
imagine? Oh my
so
god.
yeah. So actually at that point, it was funny. It was serendipity because like Betty Fujikado, who I have known since I was 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, she called me one day, and she said, "Hey, we're getting really busy on RAI. We need you. We need some help. Would you like to come in and help us on RAI?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm temping here. Might as well do that." So I came, started working, and then like 8 weeks down the road, we were like working on a presentation, and it was like late one night, maybe like 7:30, and she looked at me, sitting in this corner conference room at our old office. I remember it like clear as day, and she goes, "Do you want to come work here full time?" And I was like, had a moment of like, what does this all mean? But I was like, at that point I was ready. And, all nepotism aside, I was ready to come make my mark. And frankly, because where I was wired, I never reported to my dad was my boss because he was he was a co-founder, but my direct report was always Betty, and I was trained
Nice.
under Betty. So it was kind of compartmentalized in the business. And then it was just about like, okay, I'm going to prove my mettle. I'm going to take my last name out of the conversation, work hard, kick ass, be as good as I could be. So that wasn't ever a thing. And then was able to be successful in doing that. And I just crested 20 years at the agency.
Wow. Holy crap. That's
I know.
incredible.
I had a full head of hair when I started.
Oh, well, that's agency life will do that. Oh
It's
my
true.
goodness. Yeah. So tell me then, I guess some of those high points. So were you starting out as an account executive, and like what was that first title specifically?
Account coordinator was my first title, and so
Gotcha.
then did account coordinator, account executive. I actually left the agency for almost 3 years. I was,
What?
yeah, I was like 26 at the time, and I had a contact I knew who became a partner in a boutique wine distributor here in town, and I went and worked for them for uh, almost 2 years as a sales and marketing representative for a boutique wine distributor. And
Hmm.
there were parts of that job I loved and parts of that job I hated. I loved the marketing of wine and, story and price and where we're going to put you, distribution strategy, all those different things. The sales side was brutal. I mean, we sell in this advertising business, but it's consultative selling. It's selling for a strategic reason, and wine sales is very much a little bit snake oily. Like how much wine would you like today? So, um, and I was in my car a lot by myself, looking at my windshield, and I missed the creative team environment. And so I kind of went through that process. And when I decided to leave the agency, it was admittedly very much like self-involved quarter life crisis, where I was like, well, I
Of
guess I
course.
could work here for it's at my destiny. Is that what I'm going to do? So I left for and Jim and Betty were both like, yeah, go explore, do it, and I did. And then I remember I was kind of getting frustrated by just the lack of team environment. The distributor I was working for was not well managed by any stretch of the imagination. And the phone rang one day, and it was Betty Fujikado. And she said, "Hey, do you want to go out to lunch?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go out to lunch." And I thought it was just going to be like a "Hey, how you doing?" Kind of catch up lunch. And if you ever have the opportunity to meet Betty Fujikado, you realize that there's a there's always a motive behind
Hmm.
the conversation. And so we
It's just
sat down.
business.
Yeah, right. In the first 30 seconds of like sitting down, she goes, "Here's the deal. I lost someone off our account team. I would love to have you come back. How can we make this happen? But at that point, I was kind of ready for that,
Mm.
frankly.
You don't tell
Uh,
her that. You're like, I'm really loving my job right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, then came back and been doing it since.
Did you get that wine business as a client?
Yeah, yeah.
No way.
No,
The one that you
well,
worked on?
yeah.
Or
So
you
and
worked
frankly,
for?
like, yeah, frankly, like when I came back to the agency, I was like, damn it, we're gonna get a wine client. And then we had the opportunity, and one of the reasons we got that business and we were so successful in that business for so long is that I had worked in that industry, and the idea of like, you know a lot of wine is very sales driven, right? It's like, what do the sales folks need? How can they best sell into big grocery, and how can they, how can you support sales? And so understanding that from a marketing standpoint, and really, in a lot of organizations, sales and marketing don't get along, right? And so, but really helping them to collaborate and support the sales group was one of the reasons why we got that business and was so successful on it for so long.
Wow. Wow. That's like business development, like perfection. Like, I think that's so great. Like, tapping into your connections, what you know, and then also finding other people that have subject matter expertise in certain categories or businesses, and then trying to hunt and find those opportunities. I think that's great.
Yeah,
So
we,
then, like,
we've
when did
always
you make? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say we've always been really, really strong in the ability to grow business, and I think that comes from the trust, right? So like, but we've always like we have grown clients, not from just a profiteer standpoint, but like finding opportunities and understanding what they need, and building that trust so we can grow with them. And we did that with Saint Michel. Even in this last year, without getting into specifics, this last year was a weird year from a new business standpoint. There was, it was a weird environment out there. We didn't prevail in one big pitch we were in, but we're gonna have a really good year this year, and our organic growth is up over 200%. So it's all good for an agency. Revenue is revenue, and our ability to grow business and do that organically has been a big part of our success over the years.
Love that. Love that. So when did you make the shift then to like full time business development role?
Yeah, so starting in about 2016, 17, I started like, we never had a formal new business process at Copacino Fujikado. Like, our reputation preceded, we get RFPs, we get
Mhm.
referrals, uh, you know, we get invited into things. And so when we got those inbound opportunities starting about 2015, 16, I started getting involved in those. And then over time, my, my title grew more to, you know, business development lead or new business specialist, and I would split some time with my account work, but I was still very much an account person. I mean, up until 2020, I was still doing a lot of account work, and at that point, I was a senior account director, with a big book of business that, of a lot of different clients, running a team inside of our agency. But in part of the transition of Jim and Betty retiring, New Crest leadership coming in, we knew we needed to grow this business. And again, we never had a formal business development process or person. And I thought, and we thought that, given, let's be honest, a little bit of my last name, but a little bit of my longevity with the company, and a knack, having some sales background and understanding how to build value and talk about the agency, and that became my remit. So in 2021, I leapt in more, and then since then it's been like the last 4 years, 3 or 4 years, pretty
Gotcha.
concentrated. Now I still hold some client relationships. We'll get
Of course.
involved in those, and sometimes those take up so much time that we're we're trying to spin both of those plates of account management and keeping current clients happy and business development. However, my big remit and my report card now is about business development and new client
Yeah.
acquisition.
Gotcha. So now I want to get into advice. And what
Mm.
I'm going to do is going to ask your best advice for a couple different categories, like keeping it brief, like maybe like one liners for these different questions would be
Okay.
appreciated. And if you want
Lightning
to
round.
expand on one, yeah. So what would be your best advice for somebody to break into this business in general?
Yeah. Uh, I think two things. Be a voracious student of this business, understand it, really get into it, and to be just a voracious consumer of the stuff going on in this business. And so even if you're not working in it, being able to be conversant and understand what's happening, huge. And the other thing I'd say briefly is develop your personal brand. I always think that it's interesting that we're in this business we grow and cultivate brands, but we're also personal brands working in this business, and brands, the best brands are made at the intersection of authentic, relevant, and differentiating attributes. And you have to turn that on yourself to really understand, like, what's your brand, what are you about, and then really being able to leverage that brand in storytelling as you go through job interviews or your career, really coming back to that center of what your brand is. Sorry, that was a little long, but
No,
love
no,
to
no,
hear
all
your
good.
thoughts.
And for the student listeners, aspiring advertisers, I do one-on-one 20-minute conversations with everybody to talk about the personal brand and how do you like create that when in the narrative when you're getting your first job. So
Yep.
just want to let people know
Yep.
that. Okay, so then what would be your best advice for somebody in the new business track to break in or to thrive in new
Yeah.
business?
Yeah. Get comfortable hearing no a lot. um, you know, we all want instant gratification in this world, but the reality, I've seen different studies, but depending on what the situation is, it can take anywhere from 12 to 15 touches to court a client from first touch to business, right? And then there's a pitch process which happens a little bit faster, but if you're kind of doing the true kind of business development prospecting, so it just takes a long time. So you have to be persistent and deliberate in your process and trust that it's going to work. Innovate, continue to innovate, but don't get away from just showing up, making those contacts, telling the story, making sure you try to have a point of difference, and doing the work day in and day out, because it is, like there are years like this year has been a hard, weird new business year. And it's sometimes you look at the mirror, you go like, well, what have I done that's not right? And there's always pivots and there's always improvements and there's always things you can do, but you have to trust yourself and go, okay, if I'm doing the right things, if I truly have a good plan and a good strategy, I'm doing the right things, then persistence will pay off, and you just have to kind of continue to commit to it because it's a sales game.
Hmm.
And salespeople, are like goldfish with their ability to have short memories and knows, right? And to quote Ted Lasso, right? Like, it's just okay, no, move on, or move on, or come back, or circle back, or circle back, and that's the idea, is persistence and continuing to push as as politely and non invasively as you can.
Right, right. Okay, so you've been in this business for 20 plus years, right? What would be your advice for surviving and thriving in the long term? It's in the beginning, I'm out. I left this business because I had the media property
Hmm.
of breaking entering. I'm doing this full time. I left, you know, after 3 years. And I can't imagine me personally like thriving in this business for 20 plus years. So what advice do you have to people that broke in, they're in, they love it, they're in their position? How do you kind of treat this as like a marathon and last in this business?
Great question. I think a couple things. I think this is both true for an agency and an individual, especially for an independent agency, which is basically just like one giant person. But like you have to continue to reinvent yourself and be very comfortable with that. Like continuing to come back to center and being like, okay, what's the landscape look like now? What and how do I continue to provide value? And being very comfortable with recite, if constantly evolving. Like I can think in the 20 years I've been here, we have as an agency reinvented ourselves probably 4 or 5 times. Like, hey, we're about this. Okay, we're gonna, and we're gonna focus here, and not getting away from our center, not getting away from our core DNA, but just in what we're offering, how we're providing value to our clients, where we're meeting them, where they are. And I think individually you have to do that too. Like, growth mindset has become kind of a trite term, but I think that it's truly about continuing to evolve, and like, if you would have told me 10 years ago we'd be where we were with AI, I would never have believed it. But now it's part of our working thing, and we've incorporated it, and I've incorporated it. And like, that's, so you can't run from those things. I often say that with these technological innovations, when social happened, with AI, with these different things, it can either be like the most terrifying time to work in this business, or it can be the most exhilarating time in this business, because possibility is endless. What can you do? It's still up here. You still have to think about it. You still have to have the human brain capital to make it work, but you've never had more tools at your disposal to do what you want to do. That's pretty exciting for people who want to create and make and build things.
Love
So
that.
I think you have to have that optimism, because this business is hard. This business is hard, and you will have weeks and months and quarters and years that are shitty. Can I say shitty?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll have weeks, quarters, and years that are shitty. Um, but you keep you have to have that optimism that you are gonna that win's gonna be around the corner, that next good thing. And that's why, as an agency, whenever a good thing has happened, we've won a piece of business, we have a good client win, whatever, we have this idea of like celebrate immediately, because you have to celebrate immediately in this business, and fill your cup with those good vibes, because some hard times might be ahead of you. But I think it really, really comes from an optimism and incorporating the things around you, making those connections, and continuing to evolve the way you work, the way you think, and the way you provide value, and then collectively the way your agency provides value to their clients.
Love it. Love it. What's one thing, this last one, for advertising professionals out there that are listening, what's one thing you want to tell them that you've learned about the marketing folks? Like, maybe some mistakes you made or some lessons you've learned that marketing professionals care about this, or right now they're really in tune with this. They don't want to hear this from agency people. Let's help out the other agency folks.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of thoughts there, but a couple top line. I think that, I say this a lot, that brands don't hire agencies, people do. And so you have to really understand who has hired you. And oftentimes those people are looking for their next thing. They haven't hit their epoch, and they're just cruising now, right? So our job is to make them look great. And that is one thing that we've always done inside this agency, and something we talk about every day, is how do we make our clients look great inside their organizations. It becomes very easy sometimes for agencies to become myopic about the work they're doing for their clients, and it becomes this very transactional thing. But if you zoom out, frankly, a client is only interacting with you at a small slice of everything they have to do in their day. And so how do you make them, but often what they're doing with you is super critical to their success and what they're doing the rest of their day. So how do you make them look great? And how do you tee them up? And everything they do is so they can walk into a board meeting or something, or a C-suite, something that you will probably not even involved in, and set them up for success, because their win will become your win. And even if they run their race at that company and they go to their next thing, you've built that relationship. That's a built-in contact and prospect at their new place. So helping
Mm-hmm.
them succeed is huge. The other thing is, clients' jobs are hard, man. I mean, I think every agency person has contemplated, flirted with, kicked the tires on, going client side at some point. And the people who stay in agencies are people who love agencies, but they have a high respect for what their clients have to go through. And clients are expected to do more with less. This idea of marketing ROI, and proving the business case of marketing has never been more turned up. And so we really strive, frankly, to be the best part of a client's day. And that is, and if we have a good meeting with them, we show them some new work that is strategically right and gets them excited. We deliver, an analytics report that shows what we're doing is working. We have a blue sky conversation about possibilities. Like, all those different things can be such a nice antidote to a client's day, that it continues to build trust and they want more. We want things in this world that are confirming, right? Like if it's something is nice and a good time and pleasurable, or you want to go back for it, right? And that's what we try to do with our clients, is be the best part of their client, our client's day. And I think most often we succeed.
Love it. Chris, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, you can find me there. I'm a my inbox is my to-do list often. So see Copacino at copacino.com. I hope the C key on your computer is working, because if it's not, it becomes a problem. But see Copacino at copacino.com. Hit me up. I'd love to. I get my energy from other people, so I love a good conversation about this business. And as you could probably tell from this podcast, it doesn't take too long to wind me up to talk about this business. So I'm ready to do it whenever.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I wish you nothing but success in 2025 and beyond. I know you guys will continue to do amazing things.
Thanks, Gino. I really enjoyed my time here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.